Hey, stop right there. Before you do your usual morning routine, you need to watch this video because what I'm about to share with you could be the difference between a strong, healthy heart and a cardiac event that nobody saw coming. I'm Dr. William Lee, and today I'm going to tell you about 3 things that millions of seniors do within the first hour of waking up. Things that most people consider completely harmless, that are quietly damaging your heart, stiffening your arteries, and setting you up for serious trouble. And the worst part? Your doctor has probably never mentioned a single one of them. A landmark study published by the European Heart Journal followed over 84,000 adults aged 60 and older for 7 years. What they found was staggering. The participants who engaged in certain specific morning behaviors had a 67% higher risk of major cardiovascular events, including heart attacks and strokes, compared to those who avoided these habits. 67%. That's not a small margin. That's a number that should make every senior in America sit up straight and pay attention. And here's what I really want you to stay tuned for, because the number one habit on this list is something I guarantee almost every single one of you does without even thinking about it. It feels natural. It feels necessary. In fact, it's probably something someone told you was good for your heart. But the science tells a very different story, and I'm going to reveal exactly what it is before this video is over. But before we dive into the full list, I want to ask you something personal. I want to know how old you are and what your mornings look like right now. Drop your age and your typical morning routine in the comments below. I personally read every single comment on this channel, and your response genuinely helps me create content that speaks directly to what you're going through. Now, let's get into it. And we're going from number 3 down to number 1, because the most important one is saved for last. Number 3 on our list is something so universally accepted as a morning staple that you might actually laugh when I say it. And then stop laughing when you hear what it does to your heart in the first 30 minutes after you wake up. I'm talking about drinking a large glass of cold water immediately after getting out of bed and then following it up with a cup of coffee on an empty stomach. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Water and coffee, those are supposed to be good for me. And in the right context, yes, they can be. But timing and sequence matter enormously. And for a senior's cardiovascular system, getting this wrong triggers a chain reaction that most people have no idea is happening inside their bodies. Here's the science. When you first wake up, your body is in what researchers at the University of Colorado School of Medicine call a state of cardiovascular loading. Your blood pressure is already naturally rising. It climbs anywhere from 10 to 20 points in the first hour of waking due to a hormone surge of cortisol and adrenaline called the cortisol awakening response. This is a normal physiological process, but it means your heart is already working harder just because you opened your eyes. Now, if you immediately drink a large amount of ice cold water, your body has to work to warm that liquid to body temperature. This causes a rapid shift in your vagal tone. That's the activity of the vagus nerve, which regulates your heart rate. In some individuals over 65, this can trigger what's known as a vasovagal response, a sudden drop in blood pressure that can cause dizziness, fainting, or in vulnerable individuals, a dangerous arrhythmia, which simply means an irregular heartbeat. Then comes the coffee. A study from the American Heart Association found that consuming caffeine within the first 60 minutes of waking, before cortisol levels have peaked and started to drop, amplifies the cardiovascular strain significantly. Caffeine inhibits adenosine, a natural calming chemical in your brain, and it stimulates your adrenal glands to release even more adrenaline. For someone in their 40s, the body handles this relatively smoothly, but after 65, your arterial walls have lost much of their elasticity. Research from Johns Hopkins suggests that arterial stiffness increases by approximately 30% between the ages of 60 and 80, and the combined pressure of elevated cortisol, a cold water shock, and a caffeine surge can stress those stiff arteries significantly. I had a patient named Margaret, 71 years old, from Savannah, Georgia. She had been drinking a full glass of cold water and 2 cups of black coffee every morning for 40 years. She came to me complaining of heart palpitations and morning dizziness. Her cardiologist had run tests, but found nothing conclusive. When I told her to simply wait 45 minutes after waking before having any caffeine and to switch to room temperature water, her symptoms reduced by over 80% within 3 weeks. She called my office crying with relief. She thought she was just getting old. She wasn't. She was just doing the wrong things at the wrong time. What should you do instead? Wait at least 45 to 60 minutes after waking before consuming caffeine. Let your cortisol do its natural job of waking you up before you layer stimulants on top. When you do drink water, make it room temperature or warm. Warm lemon water is actually a beautiful option because it gently activates digestion without stressing the vagus nerve. And never drink coffee on a completely empty stomach. Even a small handful of almonds or a slice of whole grain toast first creates a buffer that blunts the cardiovascular impact significantly. Now let's talk about number 2. And this one surprises people every single time I bring it up in a clinical setting. Number 2 on our list is engaging in vigorous physical activity, especially outdoor walking or any form of cardio exercise, within the first 30 minutes of waking up. I know. This sounds backwards. Exercise is supposed to be the golden ticket to heart health, and it is, but not at this specific time and not in this specific way for seniors. This is one of those cases where the advice that's right for a 35-year-old can be genuinely harmful for someone who is 70 or older. Here is why. That cortisol awakening response I mentioned earlier, it peaks between 30 and 45 minutes after you open your eyes. During this window, your blood is also at its most viscous. That means thickest, because you've spent 7 or 8 hours without drinking fluids. Thick blood flowing through stiff arteries while your heart rate and blood pressure are already elevated from the cortisol surge is not the time to start demanding more from your cardiovascular system. Research from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that among adults over 60, the incidence of cardiac events during exercise was 3 times higher when that exercise occurred in the early morning hours compared to the same exercise performed in the late morning or afternoon. There's also the issue of what physiologists call anabolic resistance, which is simply the reduced ability of aging muscles to respond to physical stress the way younger muscles do. After 70, your body loses somewhere between 3 and 8% of its muscle mass every decade if you're not actively counteracting it. But here's the critical part. The way you exercise matters as much as whether you exercise at all. Early morning vigorous exertion actually triggers higher levels of inflammatory proteins called cytokines in older adults compared to younger ones. Think of inflammation in your arteries like rust building up on a pipe. A little rust is manageable, but chronic repeated inflammation, especially in arterial walls that are already less flexible, accelerates the kind of plaque buildup that leads to heart attacks and strokes. A gentleman named Robert, 74, from Portland, Oregon, came to me after his second episode of morning chest tightness. He was proud of his discipline, up at 5:45 a.m. every morning, out the door for a brisk 45-minute walk by 6:15, rain or shine, for 3 years. His intentions were perfect. His timing was working against him. We moved his walk to 9:30 in the morning after he had eaten a light breakfast, hydrated properly, and let his body's natural morning cardiovascular surge settle down. Within 2 months, his chest tightness had completely resolved and his resting heart rate had actually improved. The practical guidance here is straightforward. If you love morning movement, and I encourage you to keep moving, start with gentle, low-intensity activity for the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. Light stretching, slow yoga, or a calm walk around the house are all wonderful. Save your brisk walking, cycling, or any vigorous cardio for at least 90 minutes after waking. And always make sure you've eaten something light and had some room temperature water first. The synergy tip here is to pair your morning movement with a small amount of omega-3 rich food, like a few walnuts or a teaspoon of flaxseed, because omega-3 fatty acids measurably reduce arterial inflammation and make the cardiovascular response to exercise smoother and safer. And now, the one you've been waiting for. Number 1, the most dangerous morning habit for senior heart health. And I want you to brace yourself because this is the one that's going to feel the most shocking and the most counterintuitive. The number one thing seniors should never do immediately after waking up is take their blood pressure medication or heart medication the moment they get out of bed without eating first and without waiting for the body to stabilize from the act of standing up. I know that some of you were told by a well-meaning physician years ago to take your medication first thing in the morning to establish a routine. And routine matters, absolutely. But the how of taking that medication is something that has evolved dramatically in the medical literature, and too many seniors are still following outdated protocols that are quietly doing more harm than good. Here is what is happening in your body in the first 90 seconds after you stand up from a horizontal sleeping position. Your blood, which has been pooling calmly at a relatively equal distribution throughout your body, now has to rapidly redirect under the force of gravity toward your lower extremities. Your heart and your blood vessels, particularly the baroreceptors in your carotid arteries, which act like pressure sensors, have to compensate almost instantly to maintain adequate blood pressure to your brain. In young, healthy adults, this happens seamlessly. But after 65, this compensatory mechanism is significantly slower. The condition this produces is called orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure upon standing, and it affects an estimated 1 in 3 adults over the age of 65, according to data from the National Institutes of Health. Now, here is where it becomes truly dangerous. If you stand up and immediately take a blood pressure lowering medication on an empty stomach, where absorption is faster and peaks are more intense, you are introducing a pharmaceutical blood pressure drop on top of an already physiologically compromised blood pressure state. The result can be a dramatic, sudden cardiovascular event. Even medications like beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, or calcium channel blockers, all of which are completely appropriate and necessary for many seniors, can cause severe dizziness, loss of consciousness, a dangerous fall, or in worst-case scenarios, a transient ischemic attack, which is a mini stroke when taken in this specific way. Research published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that seniors who took antihypertensive medications without food in the immediate post-waking period had a 42% higher incidence of morning falls compared to those who took the same medications with food and after a brief stabilization period. 42%, and falls in seniors are not minor events. A significant fall after 70 can begin a cascade, hip fractures, hospitalization, complications, that changes the entire trajectory of someone's health. I want to tell you about Dorothy, 78 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. Dorothy had been on 3 blood pressure medications for 6 years. Every morning, she took all 3 pills the moment she got up before breakfast, because that was the routine. She had fallen twice in her bathroom in the same year. Her family was terrified. Her cardiologist was baffled because her heart was structurally sound. When we reviewed her morning protocol together, we discovered that she was standing up, walking immediately to the bathroom, and taking her medications before she had eaten a single bite of food or waited even 2 full minutes for her body to adjust to being vertical. We made 3 changes. We had her sit on the edge of the bed for 2 full minutes before standing. This alone allows baroreceptor pressure sensors to recalibrate. We had her drink a small glass of warm water and eat half a banana before her medications. And we spaced her medication so she wasn't taking all 3 simultaneously. Dorothy has not fallen once in the 14 months since those changes. She told me recently that she feels like she got her life back. The practical protocol for this is incredibly simple but profoundly impactful. First, when you wake up, do not immediately stand. Sit on the edge of the bed for 1 to 2 full minutes. Let your legs dangle, breathe slowly and calmly. Give your cardiovascular system time to orient to gravity. Second, before taking any cardiac or blood pressure medication, eat something. It doesn't have to be a full meal. Half a banana, a few crackers, a small bowl of oatmeal. Something in your stomach slows absorption and prevents the sharp peak in medication blood levels that causes the dangerous drop. Third, if you take multiple medications, talk to your doctor about whether all of them need to be taken simultaneously. Spacing them can reduce the combined blood pressure effect in the early morning window. The synergy tip here is magnesium. Magnesium is profoundly important for cardiovascular stability and is deficient in an estimated 68% of American adults over 60, according to research from the National Academy of Sciences. Taking a gentle magnesium supplement, magnesium glycinate is the most bioavailable form and the easiest on the stomach. With your morning meal supports the very baroreceptor function and arterial smooth muscle relaxation that makes your medications work more effectively and safely. Think of magnesium as the oil in your engine. Your medications are the fuel, but without the oil, the engine grinds. Now let me bring this all together for you, because I don't just want you to know these three things intellectually. I want them to change something for you tomorrow morning. Your morning hours are not just the beginning of your day. They are the most cardiovascularly vulnerable window in your entire 24-hour cycle. Your blood is thicker, your arteries are stiffer from the night's inactivity, your blood pressure is rising, and your heart is quietly asking you to be gentle with it. Every decision you make in those first 90 minutes, the temperature of your water, the timing of your coffee, the moment you choose to exercise, and the way you take your medications, sends a direct message to your cardiovascular system about what kind of day it's going to have. The people who age with the strongest hearts are not necessarily the ones with the best genetics or the most expensive treatments. They are the ones who learn to work with their body's natural rhythms instead of against them. They are the ones who slowed down long enough in the morning to let their heart catch up to the day before demanding anything of it. And the most beautiful truth I can share with you after decades of clinical practice is this: it is never too late to make these changes. Dorothy was 78, Robert was 74, Margaret was 71. None of them were too far gone. None of them had crossed some irreversible threshold. They simply needed the right information at the right time, and that information changed everything. Your independence, your ability to walk to the mailbox and feel your own heartbeat strong and steady, your ability to sit across from your grandchildren without fear, that is what we are protecting here. Not just numbers on a blood pressure cuff, but the quality and fullness of your actual lived life. And you deserve every single year of it. If this video gave you even one insight you didn't have before, please hit that subscribe button right now, because every week I bring you science-backed health information designed specifically for where you are in life. Not for a 30-year-old, not for a generic audience, but for you. And please, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it helps this information reach the seniors who need it most. All the scientific references mentioned in this video are listed in the description below so you can share them with your doctor. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 3 habits have you been doing without realizing it could be affecting your heart? Drop your answer in the comments along with your age. I genuinely read every single one. And let's make your mornings the healthiest part of your day.